Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me already, my name is Courtney and I operate LoreLune leaves. And today I'm going to show you how to break apart a Philodendron Birkin and how to multiply your plants from just one plant or two plants into many. So I have these two little Philodendron Birkins that I picked up at a big box store. And the reason that they caught my eye was because when I'm buying plants like that, I'll look really close at the stem and I'll try to see if there's a lot that it can be broken apart pretty easily. So I do have a big Philodendron Birkin back home, and even though it's got some aerial roots forming, it's also connected in this big thick trunk that you can't really break it apart. But this one you can kind of see there's lots of little stems, separate stems, that are connecting in these clusters. And once you start to recognize that, you'll be able to tell when you see a plant wherever you are, you'll be able to tell if you can break that one apart. So this one is definitely, I'm assuming, root bound. So what you're going to do is you're just going to try to remove it from the pot. Now usually I'd push from the bottom if there were some kind of like a drainage hole, but this one doesn't have one. So I'm just going to gently tug around the base, and just like I expected, it's super root bound, which means that we're ready to repot this one anyway. So basically what you want to do now is just tickle the roots. It's kind of an odd thing to say, and usually I'm a bit more messy with it, but I only had this small Tupperware clean and nearby, so I was trying to be a little bit careful. So I'm going to move you in a little bit closer, and then basically what you're going to do is just get your fingers between those roots and kind of tickle them. I know that sounds really odd, but that's really the only way that you can really do it. So you're just going to tickle the roots and kind of gently pull apart the roots, because what you want to do is to try to untangle it without breaking them. A few of them will probably break, that's just the nature of the beast, but don't get too concerned or caught up in that. Just try to start from the bottom and detangle as much soil as possible while keeping all those roots and then those delicate little leaves at the top all intact. Once you've gotten most of the soil knocked off, you're going to start to kind of be able to feel and see the roots in a little better of a way. So what you're going to do then is you're just going to try to find these little pods or these little clusters of leaves and stems that connect at the same little group, and you'll kind of see here, you can start to just pull them out. So here's a little segment that I just kind of eased out. Some of them will start to fall out automatically as you are tickling the soil, tickling the roots. Other ones, they will be a little bit tighter. So I encourage you not to just pull as hard as you can, because what that can do is that can basically, I've done this before, where you snap off the cluster where the stems all connect, and it snaps off from the roots. And then what you have is basically a dead plant, because if you don't have any nodes and any roots, then it's really difficult to ensure that it's actually going to grow. It's likely just going to die. So be sure that you don't damage the roots too much. Anytime that you repot something, it's naturally going to be a shock to the plant system, and usually I would recommend waiting till it's closer to spring or summertime, but because this one was just so incredibly packed into that little pot, I could tell it was root bound, and it probably appreciates this little breather. So here you can see I'm just kind of pulling everything apart and then stripping the roots as best as I can from the soil, and I'm going to kind of power wash this in a little bit and get the rest of the soil off, but you want to try to get as much as possible off so that you're not flushing too much soil down the drain. So I'm just going to keep on tearing these apart, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the second one, because there are two Birkins. And at the beginning of this, I looked at the two and I thought to myself, I think that this will probably make about 10 little baby Birkins. So we'll see how many I end up with. So now we've come to that part again where you have to be a little bit delicate, and it's really difficult to not want to just kind of tug at the base of the stem and just hope that the roots come flying out with it. But unless you've really gotten your fingers in there and dug up and tickled the roots, made a lot of that soil fall off, it's really difficult to pull these out with brute force. You kind of have to almost sublux them, kind of like if you've ever seen a tooth removal, which I've seen many of because my boyfriend is in dental school. tooth removal, it's kind of like they sublux it until it kind of pulls out. So sometimes I'll take two different parts of the stumps, as you kind of see here. I'll take two different clusters and I'll just kind of wiggle them around and sublux them until I get them to kind of gently tease apart. And sometimes if this really isn't working with just soil, you can actually use your water, like turn on your heavy sprayer pressure water in your sink and kind of blast it, and that will also help to break up some of that soil and make the roots detangle a little bit easier. The goal is to break as few roots and leaves as possible, but of course when the roots are like really root bound, as you see here, that's a little bit difficult to avoid it completely. So after I clean up my mess, I will wash all of the soil, kind of try to clean up those pots so that I can reuse them, because I'm a big fan of upcycling almost everything that I use. And after that, I'm just going to take each of these little bundles with roots, these rooted little pieces, and I'm just going to wash them. And I'm not too gentle on them just because in nature, I've said this before, but in nature plants will undergo rain and storms and wind and all that stuff. So it's okay to be a little more intense with the water pressure because it kind of just simulates rain or a storm, and it's just going to make those plants stronger. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just washing the leaves. This helps to ensure that you're not going to get spider mites, also helps to keep pests away, keeps the leaves shiny, keeps them clean so that there's more photosynthesis being able to happen with all of the different chloroplasts in the leaves. And I'm basically taking, if there's roots that are really long and really stringy, I'm just taking these clean cutting shears and just snipping the end of it, kind of like a haircut or a hair trim, just because we want to give it some encouragement to produce more growing hormones like auxin and to continue to push growth. So that is the quick of how I did that. Now, in my case, I'm not going to pot these right away. I actually have other plans for these, but I need to wait until the leca that I just purchased is completely soaked, because I have to soak it for 48 hours to make sure that all of those little particles get out of all the pores. So I just put these back into their original nursery pot inside of the ceramic pot and then filled it with a little bit of water on the bottom, just so that I'm making sure that the roots are still getting a little bit of water over the next couple of days while I wait for my leca to soak. So there you have it. In the end, we were able to use root division to divide 2 small Philodendron Birkin pots and divide that into 15 individual little baby Philodendron Birkins that are fully rooted and relatively happy, and they will be happy in their new leca homes. So if you found this video at all interesting or useful, please subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, share, like, whatever you feel compelled to do, and I will see you next time.